Hello there, my name is Simon. I am a casual audiophile, and today I'm reviewing the VE Monk, VE Monk Plus actually, which is a chifi classic. Now, what is chifi? Well, chifi is a term that stands for Chinese hi-fi, and it's used to characterize basically all of the headphones and earphones coming from the Chinese market. But mostly the cheap stuff, because chifi has some really interesting characteristics in that the chifi items are pretty much exclusively cheap, really wonky tuned, but also really competitive at their price points with Western stuff. Now, in recent years, chifi has exploded in popularity with companies like KZ, TRN, Blon, Tin Hi-Fi, Moondrop, or even some bigger players making full-size headphones like Hi-Fi Man, gaining a lot of notoriety in the US. But a few years ago, the VE Monk used to be the chifi headphone. It's made by the Chinese company called Venture Electronic, and it was the flagship for all of chifi, because it was the original thing that came out, and it cost $5 at the time, and people were surprised by just how great of a sound can you get for such a low price. Now, this thing that I have right here is the VE Monk Plus, which is a later upgraded version. You can buy it now for about $10. So, with all the other chifi flowing into the market and Western companies stepping up their game, is there any reason to buy them in 2021? And more importantly, how do they sound? Well, that's what we're here to find out. And before we begin, I'm wearing bangs now, because bangs are cool. Oh, at least that's what the cool kids rock nowadays, right? Well, my knowledge of fashion might have been lost in 2011, but whatever, let's just get to the review. And also, I'm going to try and make it quick, because I've recorded a 25-minute video before, only to realize I've been recording in time-lapse mode, so all of this work went for nothing. Well, for a short video where you could see me flailing my arms around like an idiot. And I even finished my tea during the recording. So now I'm just going to have to drink water instead. So there's that. Now, since I'm not even going to edit this video, because whatever, you get to watch the amazing and high quality transition of literally me entertaining you with my voice while I'm moving the camera around. And I'm still using the shitty tripod from base use, so the setup is going to take a tiny bit of time, but I'm hoping that I can keep you plenty entertained while I'm doing it. Just like I'm keeping Volboy entertaining. Look at him bob his head. What an absolute mad lad. Now, okay, let's lower the angle a little bit. And let's make it a little bit more centered. Hello there. Okay, this should work. Now, where are my hands? Right here. So that means that this should be the center of the frame, which is perfect. Now, okay, so first of all, before we start the review, a little disclaimer that I'm probably going to add at the start of every review of a wired headphone I make is the source equipment I was using to test it, the VE Monk Plus with. So I've been using 3 devices, which are also just my daily driver sources and all of the sources that I own, besides the Automotive dongle, which is just an Apple dongle in disguise really. So I've been using the Apple dongle, the Apple 3.5 to Lightning adapter, and this also comes in a USB-C flavor, so you can also use it with Android phones. I have an iPhone, so I use the Lightning one. And this costs $10, and for $10, it might be the only piece of source gear that you ever need. It has a really great DAC inside it, and it's actually plenty powerful for I don't know, like 85% of headphones in the world. Like it can drive like most of the consumer stuff. It can drive like a lot of IEMs, and it handles the Monk pretty well. And yeah, like for €10 or $10, like this is the piece of source gear I would expect people to be matching the Monk with. Aside from like their phone's headphone jack, but honestly, even if your phone has a headphone jack, you could probably benefit out of this, because this just is such a good sounding unit for like such a low price. Now the next one I've used was the BTR5, which is a $110 DAC amp from FIO. It's like a tiny little portable jelly bean, and it connects to your phone over Bluetooth or over a wire, but I use Bluetooth because I use it for convenience mostly. It has a lot more power than the Apple dongle. It can pretty much drive like 99% of headphones in the world. Like it even manages to drive my HD600s, which are like big ass 300 ohm headphones from Sennheiser, pretty well. Not perfectly, like you can hear it strain a little bit, but it drives them pretty well, to the point where I could daily drive them off my BTR5 and I would be completely fine with doing it. So this unit has plenty of power, more than you probably ever want to provide with the Monk. But hey, it might be like an upgrade option down the road. If you use those headphones, you like them a lot, you don't want to upgrade them, but you just want a little bit of a better sound and more convenience. Like, hey, this is a reasonable-ish piece of source gear for them. And now the last one that I've been using is the Magni 3 Plus from Shit. And yes, the company's name is literally Shit. Just don't ask. It's a fantastic desktop amplifier. And by the way, I'm just using the Apple dongle, but in the USB-C flavor, as my DAC for my PC. And the Magni here is an it's stupid powerful amplifier. It can drive like the HD600s, like they don't even use like 10% of its power. It's such a ridiculous amplifier. It can drive like 99.9% of the market, aside from like really ridiculous headphones like the Hi-Fi Man Aria or Hi-Fi Man Susvara. You know, like aside, if you're not investing in like $6,000 headphones, this should be pretty much the only piece of source gear you ever need. But this is just like ridiculously powerful, and I don't expect anybody aside from weirdos like me to use it with a Monk, but hey, I did it anyway. So yeah, with that out of the way, back to the Monks. We'll talk about scaling, which is how much they improve with better amplification and better sources at the end of the review. But now let's get into the build and comfort. And now the build is like completely acceptable for $5 actually. Like they are built of plastic and it's actually transparent. Like you can see the driver and the cabling inside, which I think is pretty cool. It's like this clouded gray color, and you know, like the plastic is actually quite nice to the touch. And yeah, like they stay in your ears pretty shit until you put on the phones, which are free and included with the Monks. You just put on some foam on them and suddenly they become really comfortable and fit really great. And you know, like they actually stay in your ears pretty well. They still, you know, like slide around a little bit because they're earbuds, they don't have anything to hold them to your ear, but they stay pretty well. Like unless you pull on the cable like really hard, they're not going to fall out of your ears, or at least for me that was the case. So like spoiler, like this is actually the reason why I use them as my sleeping headphone, because like I can just put them into bed. They sit flush enough with my ears where I barely feel them when I'm laying on my side, and they stay in my ears pretty decently throughout the entire night. So huge props for the comfort. They are very comfortable. And yes, the foams do change the sound. They reduce the sound stage and make the sound a little bit warmer, but we'll talk about it soon. But just piece of advice, if you're buying them, you're going to be wearing the phones anyway, so just ignore all the piece about how they sound without the foams, because it's just useless to you, because you're going to be using the foams, trust me. And the cable, like, some people will say it's a good cable. Well, maybe for the budget it is, but in general I don't like it. It's pretty rubbery, but you know, like, it's pretty much the exact same cable as comes with the HD 600s, which are like $350 or something. So it's not a bad cable at all. Like, in fact, it behaves pretty well when you road wrap it. Like, it can actually hold its shape really well. It doesn't get many kinks in it, which is pretty nice. I just don't like the feel in the hand too much, but hey, for $10, not complaining about it at all. So the build quality, pretty nice. The comfort, really good with the foams on. Now, how's the sound profile like? What do they sound like? Well, their sound profile is, I would say, really fucking wonky. It's not a neutral headphone at all. It's not a hi-fi listening experience. In fact, those are what I would call lo-fi, but very pleasant. So they definitely do not sound like how the artist intended the song to sound like, but it's pretty enjoyable actually. They remind me of like listening to music on like a shitty 90s tape deck at your grandma's house, and you know, brings back good memories, and it's a bit of like a nostalgic sound. It's weird to put it that way, but that's really how it feels. It's a very nostalgic sound profile, which is weird, but hey, we are allowed to get weird on this channel. Now, what it actually means is they are very warm, but not bassy. Because like a lot of people in the audiophile community like relate the word warm to bassy one-to-one. Those are not. They are just definitely not for bass heads. In fact, yeah, we'll talk about that in the bass section. But like, you know, they sound pretty damn pleasant because they have no sub bass pretty much at all. They don't make like those rumbling sounds like, which is like what the bass heads actually want. But they do have a lot of an area that most audiophiles actually would not appreciate, which is the mid bass. Which, you know, if you have too much of a mid bass with not enough resolving capabilities, you can get the sensation of that the bass bleeds into the mid range, or it's got this bloomy kind of sound. It sounds kind of congested, especially if you don't have enough treble. Now, thankfully, they do have enough treble for that, and it actually makes the sound really nice and really like relaxed, especially because like the lower mids are pretty, there's quite a lot of the lower mids, and the upper mids are actually quite relaxed. There's not that much of them, which just makes the Monks Plus sound like incredibly relaxing. They are perfect for like long walks in the park, maybe not in the sea, because like, you know, they don't isolate pretty much at all. So yeah, do not walk around, you know, near a busy street with them, because you're not gonna hear shit. But yeah, like for walks in the park or just for sleeping, they are just the perfect tuning because it helps you relax so much, and I love it. Now, as for their technique, like as for like some examples of what I mean, is like, for example, in the song "The Night We Met" by Lord Huron, they sound extremely smooth. And like, talking about their technical performance, well, we'll touch on it again in the scaling part of the review, but let's just say, like, if you're just using the dongle, which is what most people are going to be using with them, their technical ability is quite low, but it doesn't stop you from enjoying the music, if it makes sense. Like, for example, in "The Night We Met" by Lord Huron, right? The sounds are extremely smooth. And what do I mean by that? It's like, you hear the different notes, but they don't have like a sharp edge to them. You don't know where the sounds start and end. It's pretty smooth in that reason, way actually. You hear that they are distinct sounds, but you don't hear borders within them. And this actually comes up in the song Icy Fire by Ed Sheeran as well, because like the acoustic guitar in that song, especially like if you listen around the 111 mark, it has a very clear peak. Like you can hear the middle of the notes perfectly. It's almost sharp, but it doesn't get sharp, thankfully. I'm going to come back in a second after I clean my nose. Wait. Goddamn cold. I'm going to have to edit this video now. Fuck. Anyway, back to the technical performance. Now, what they lack in resolution, right? They make up for in like the sense of scale. And for example, in that same song, Icy Fire by Ed Sheeran, at 420 in the song, which is a pretty nice mark if you ask me, the guitar strumming is like really lacking in resolution. Like the sounds just blend together, but it's so grandiose and powerful because they actually have quite a bit of impact in how they sound. Like the sound is just like hits your ears with force, and also like the soundstage is like very wide, like surprisingly wide for something this small and cheap, and you actually do feel enveloped by the music. Like it's, you know, if this is your head, right? Imagine this is your head. Like most headphones have the sounds coming from here. Some of the headphones that soundstage quite well have the sounds coming from, you know, all the way in here. Some like the HD600s have the sound coming from like from here, from the center of your head to here. Those do not quite reach the center, but they are really wide around your head and also really 3D. There's like you can feel like there's a ball of sound floating around your head almost. And this song just, you know, like surfaces this quality really well around the 420 mark, when like the big epic guitar strumming comes in. You can just like feel the grandeur of the sound. It's really awesome and quite intoxicating actually. And speaking of intoxicating, the song Apocalypse by the band called Cigarettes After Sex. Now, this is a song that I found is a really good test song because it can differ quite a lot in how it sounds, depending on the gear you're using to listen to it. And for example, on something neutral like the 600, the song is quite nostalgic. It's very soft, very slow, but you can feel it's, you know, really a sad song. You can feel like the subtle aura of like kind of sweet despair hanging around in the song. It's quite an experience. But on something like the Monks, thanks to their like warm and really relaxed sound signature, the song just feels kind of hopeful, beautiful and soothing. Like the vocals on the song are actually front and center. They take the main stage and they sound really like sweet and soothing in your ears, which again just makes them into perfect sleeping IMs. Now, some other songs that I tested, now this is not going to be like related directly to the sound profile or the technical capabilities, but just the general presentation. In The Unforgiven 2 by Metallica, instruments are surprisingly well separated and defined, even when listening out of the dongle. And the kick drums, which is like, you know, the big bassy poof drums, right? They sound very natural and quite loud, but do not impact you as hard. And, you know, as I said, those are not headphones for bass heads, because bass heads want this kick drum to hit like this, right? And on the Monk, it goes loud. It has the hit here, and just hits your ears like this. It's a weird analogy, but this is what I can do. And also the bass guitar in this song is surprisingly really difficult to hear, despite like them having quite a lot of mid bass. And it just sounded like, you know, like it gave the effect of like playing from a worn out cassette really well. It's a weird presentation, but I did not mind it at all. Now, in some other rock songs, I find this is not like the perfect set to listen to rock on them, mainly because of the lack of definition, and also, I don't know, like the lack of the lower bass just kind of takes away from the impact. And for example, in the song World War III by Machine Gun Kelly, the drums and vocals dominate the entire song, and it's very difficult to hear like the electric guitars or the bass guitar. And for example, in a song like America by Deuce, it's surprisingly a bit too bassy for my taste. So the bass on those is like really weird and inconsistent. So yeah, like kind of weird for the rock genre. But where it really shines is pop music. For example, Michael Jackson's Beat It was like pretty much like the perfect presentation of the song. The electric guitars and his vocals are just like beautiful and really engaging. And this song it has like one trick up its sleeve that really shows off the Monk's enormous soundstage really well. There is a door knocking sound at 2:45, and it really sounds like it came from like 10 meters outside my head. Literally, while I'm sitting on my desk, it sounds as if somebody's knocking on my door, which is kind of creepy. And yeah, like in some other pop songs, like Dua Lipa's Good in Bed, like I found they don't actually deal that well with female vocals, because her voice is like pretty thick to begin with, and on those it sounds even thicker. It's kind of lacking some energy. It's not a bad presentation, but not my favorite one either. But where it really shines is a song like Lose Yourself to Dance by Daft Punk, because Pharrell's vocals come front and center, and there's really impressive detail in the synths. Like they are still smoothened, like the guitar sounds in the first two tracks, but it just sounds pretty nice, and drum hits just sound perfect. And there is the part of the song that goes like come on, 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 and it like travels outside of your head. Here I found that it's like decently far away from my ears, but like the imaging is kind of whack, because it's pretty good when the sounds are to the side or behind you, but like on the diagonals, it just the sound got a little bit quieter, which is like weird. But anyway, like I'm not going to bore you with like more songs that I listen to. I might post like the whole test track list in the comment. But yeah. Oh, actually, two more songs that I want to mention that sound particularly good on this headphone. Well, first one is Live Fast, Die Young by Hollywood Undead. Like, the entire presentation of the song, I actually don't like it. It has like too little bite and feels too bloated because of the mid bass. But like what I just love about this song is like the synths that come in the beginning. It's just, oh my god, it's just perfect. Now, one song that's just like also completely out of this world on those is High Hopes by Pink Floyd, because like there are some really discordant tones in the song, and they just work wonderfully here. Like I actually had a hard time making notes out of the song because I just disappeared into it. It's just a wonderful, like, quite emotional experience that I just would not have expected from a $10 pair of earbuds. I just fucking love them. I just love how they sound. So, like, get this, the Monks, and the dongle, and honestly, for $10, you're fucking set. Like, this could be like all the money you ever spend on audio gear, and as long as they do not break, like, you probably are fine. You don't need to upgrade your audio gear ever. If you like the tonality of those, and I promise you they sound like way better than anything you can get for like $10 in the West. Like, you know, like, what could you get? Like some budget Sony or JBL IEMs, or like those god awful Sony over ears. Like, just get the Monk instead. Like, if like you have $20 in your audio budget, just buy this and this, and this could be your end game, literally. But, you know, like, this was not my end game. I have a lot of headphones and sources more expensive than this. So I went away and tried them on the Magni for shits and giggles. And you know what? Like, those things bloody sip power like it's green tea. It's just ridiculous. Like, actually, while playing from the Magni, I noticed that they sounded a lot better. Like, I can get them plenty loud on low gain, but I swear to God, even at the same loudness, they just sounded better on high gain. And like, just adding as much power as the Magni has, just fucking unleashes them, you know? Like, in like Apocalypse by Cigarettes After Sex, like, the highs are way clearer, the vocals are more present, the bass line is actually audible now, and you can clearly hear multiple strings being struck at the same time. Like, they lose this like smoothing effect, and now they have like a pretty clear beginning and end to its sound. And like, what the fuck is this? Do you know? Like, what? Like, how? These are bloody $10, and they just, what? Like, I am at a loss for words. Like, they actually sound so fucking good out of the Magni. And, you know, like, you might think I'm just shilling them, but I made fucking notes. So if anyone has the dongle, the Monks, which is $20, and a more powerful amplifier, which, you know, if you're an audiophile who's been into the game for some time and uses a desktop amplifier, you can test it for yourself. Like, test it on the Cigarettes After Sex song, on both the dongle and the Magni. The difference is just there. They lose some of that mid bass, so the sound is like less warm, but it's way more technical. And for example, in Icy Fire by Ed Sheeran, right? The same string plucking at 111 just sounds more natural. It has like beginnings and ends, and you just hear the strum being, the strum being plucked. And at 420, right? That's just like, at that point, like, just listen. Play the song Icy Fire by Ed Sheeran on the dongle, skip to 420, right? And listen to how the guitars sound in the background, right? Now plug them into the Magni and try the same thing. And like, the strumming is now so detailed, like you can even hear it resonating inside the box of the acoustic guitar, which is like, what? Like, once again, those things are bloody $10. Like, what? Like, this is the kind of like, you know, like, compared to the Beats which I reviewed previously, like, this amount of like, you could never get this amount of detail on those. And what? Like, how the fuck is this relay? Like, I'm at a loss for words on just like how detail this sound when you just give them some power. It should not be this way, but it is. And you can even hear some subtle plucking on the guitar in the background, like, you know, like aside from main, like really rough strumming, right? This really loud hitting the guitar. You can also hear like some really subtle, just like plucking of individual strings in the background, which was completely like absent, indistinguishable on the dongle. Like, what? And I also tested them on the BTR5. Now, this sounds like maybe like a third of the way between the dongle and the Magni, but definitely to the side of the dongle. Now, as for the scaling part, right? I am definitely going to recommend you to buy those and the Magni as your starter kit if you're getting into coffee, because it's like, what, like if you had like $150 to spend coming into the hobby, there are way better ways to spend this money than, you know, like buying a fucking $100 amp for $10 earphones. But, you know, if you have a Magni, you might want to try this, because this is actually really fun. Like, this is a ridiculous pairing, and I do not expect people to do it, but if you decide to do it, like, it's just like surprisingly fun to do. And once again, I'm not using like the default audiophile terminology. When I say fun, it does not mean that it has like bass and treble, and it's just like, shut the fuck up. Fun means fun, don't overthink it. But yeah, like, it just sounds so good out of the Magni. And, you know, like the dong is like the, you know, the combination, the source that like 99% of people will be completely fine while using it. They sound quite good out of the dong. And, you know, this is what I'm going to rate them based on, because, you know, like, realistically, buying a $100 amp for this is just a whack idea, right? But if you do start with them, they are a pretty nice way to explore scaling in the future. And you might want to get something like this, the BTR5, or maybe one of the like more modern alternatives like the QDLX 5K or the iFi Go Blue, or some other like Bluetooth amp, DAC amp for like the convenience alone. And, you know, you might experiment and discover if like you can hear like things scaling with power, because you can hear it on them. Like, in fact, you know, like, they scale with power so well that I am convinced that they are taking more advantage of the Magni than the HD600s. Like, the difference between like the HD600 from the dongle to the Magni is like what, like okay, from the dongle to the Magni it's quite big, because the dongle just flat out does not have enough power. But from like the BTR5 to the Magni, it's like maybe like a 3% improvement if I'm being generous, right? But for this, like, coming from the BTR5 to the Magni, well, I would like to say it's like a 30% improvement, but it's kind of weird, because it's like you win some, you lose some, right? Because like you get a lot more technical capabilities, but you lose some of that warmth and smoothness that makes them so good for sleeping. So, you know, give and take. But yeah, I'm just like so fucking impressed with this. Like, $10, I'm fucking out, eh? Like, the score, I'm going to rate them as based on listening on the dongle, and I don't think I would change the like straight up like music score based on this, like just the sound alone. I will rate them as a D- tier, which the technicalities I will say are like a C-, and the tuning I would say is like a D+ in the stock configuration. And keep in mind, this is objective regardless of the price, just rating the sound. But if we're taking price as well as things like comfort, build quality and shit into consideration, well, they are just 5 stars out of 5. Like, just go and get them. Those, and you know, in my ranking, it's like 1 star means like never buy it. 2 stars mean like it might be good for some people, but there are just better alternatives at the same price. 3 stars is like, yeah, it's pretty decent. Like, you know, like you will not suffer if you buy it, if it's for like good for your taste. 4 stars means a recommendation, which is like, yep, I think that at this price point, those are just one of the best headphones to get. And now 5 stars means that it's just like you can just blindly spend the money without knowing your taste, without ever listening to them, and I'm pretty sure you will not regret the money spent. So yeah, that's it for today. Like, I'm just so impressed by those bloody things. Like, I don't listen to them that often anymore during the day, but they're just like perfect for sleeping too, which is another bonus, because like if you ever decide to upgrade them, they still have their use, right? And if you ever do decide to upgrade from them and you like their tonality, a really good natural path of upgrade would be something like the Blown 03. And we are going to talk about them pretty soon. Maybe not the next time, but maybe the time after that. Or maybe it will be the next time. I don't know. I don't care. Fuck you.